Many have criticized the presidential term limit in a democratic country. One joke is that a new president will use the first 3 years to know each one of his colleagues in the cabinet and parliament, and then use the fourth year to prepare for the next election. To summarize, nothing could really be done. But at the same time, as a newly elected government president, I'm convinced that I am different from all others and capable of making new changes for my country and for the people. There are two things on my to-do list. One is the departmental budget allocation, which will surely be bloody as those ministers will fight among themselves mercilessly, and the other issue is the promised rewriting of the Seoul Constitution. Of course, as the president, I am not alone for sorting everything out. Lucien, my chief of staff, is probably the most helpful chap in my team. He is a strategist, being insightful, pragmatic, and loyal to me. In other words, he is very good at getting things done. But some say he is too smart and too good at hiding his own feelings and intentions. To be frank, it doesn't really matter to me. The only thing I need is his absolute loyalty and the ability to complete tasks. Petro is the vice president and my long-term friend from university. He is another shoulder I need to undertake the heavy administrative burden. Some say it's cronyism, but I don't think so. Petro is a good politician, very talkative and well-connected. He is an opposite of Lucien, that he seldom tries to hide anything from people. If Lucien is a silent fox, then Petro will be a rowdy bear. The first day in presidential office is chill. I received quite a few congratulations from all sorts of people, regardless of being politicians, businessmen, leaders of neighboring countries, or any others. Some are purely politeness. Some are genuine, while some others are asking for a favor. Several people were also trying to invite me to a dinner or party, and I only agreed a few of them because they are too powerful or too influential that I cannot reject. The only time I used the president's power on the first day was to sign the electoral campaign finance bill. No wonder my USP party colleagues will put it on my table on the first day. MPs had crossed swords over this issue for months. The bill itself is about changing the criteria for allocating public funds from according to the number of votes a party received in the election to the number of seats a party have in the parliament. It would almost double USP's funds, and no doubt all other parties are blocking its way. I signed it almost because I need my own party's support in the near future for my own agenda, and it's beneficial to do them a favor now. Then the night we went to the reception party at the inaugural room. As a tradition, to celebrate my election success, it should be a happy and relaxing ball, but some accident happened. First, we heard gunshot, which is no way part of the party, and then we were escorted to the safe house, and then the police chief told me an MP was gunned down. I was so angry because it is an abject humiliation to me, to my new administration, and to the nation. But I was also somewhat relieved because at least I'm still alive. But anyway, it also adds tons of burden on me, that I now deeply understand whatever faces me now and in the next 4 years would never be easy. The cost of making mistakes would be heavy, even would be my life. I didn't reprimand the police chief or the Minister of Interior, let alone sack them, although I was really tempted to do so. I still need them desperately in a time of national unrest. I also need to show a gesture to all that I am open for cooperation, which I really do. I need unity in the administration, which would be crucial in the following months and years, but I will never forget the night of chaos. There is no time for me to complain, as president life only gets busier and busier. Most of the time only result matters. No one cares about the process or approach. The first thing is my meetings with the departmental ministers. They would brief me about the domestic situation from their perspective and provide their professional advice, and of course, ask me for more budget. The first meeting is about the economic affairs, attended by Minister of Economics, Rural Affairs, and Minister of Interior. Economic Minister was a well-trained economist who also believed in the free market. The Rural Affairs Minister is the oldest chap in the cabinet and one of the few remaining sole cabinet members. However, he is very professional in rural affairs and I need his presence in my cabinet to show my respect for my predecessors. The Interior Minister is one of the 3 females in the whole cabinet. Many call her Gorgon for her ruthlessness and brutality at the position of Interior Minister, who controlled almost all the security forces, including the police and prison. Or maybe because that she got the unusual job as a woman at the Interior Minister. For economics, he stood against the free market and privatization. In other words, she is a woman of tradition. The meeting runs not smoothly at all. First, the economic minister gave up those appalling figures: fast depreciating currency, almost 20% unemployment rate, a relatively high inflation rate at 7%. Our GDP is $310 billion, but the debt is $427 billion. In general, the recession is at -6 annually. And then the bitter argument started. Interior Minister gave all the blame to the laissez-faire policy of previous Alfonso administration, while Economic Minister blamed the Seoul-era policies, which only irritated the Interior Minister. The Rural Minister seemed to be impartial but in fact supported a more traditional and less drastic economic policy. It's true that if you ask 1,000 economics why the recession happened, you could probably get more than 1,000 answers. But anyway, I supported my economic minister for preference towards continuing the free market policy and implementing larger-scale privatization program. The Interior and Rural Minister were upset, but I ended the meeting immediately, stopping any one of those potential arguments from them. It's hard to make a decision, but once it's made, then just do it. Don't regret, and don't give you any way back. The second meeting is about the national defense, attended by the defense minister and the chief of general staff. The defense minister was my commander when I served in the army, and the chief of general staff was the most senior general in the military. Sordland faces quite complex geopolitics. It has 4 neighbors on land and 1 across the sea. Our army is dispersed along the long borders guarding our nation, especially when several of our neighbors are not very friendly towards us. The military suspected Romberg in the north is actively plotting something against us and asked for more funds to beef up the army. We all agree with the general direction ahead, but there are some disagreements on the approach. The old chief of general staff believes it's better to increase the army size by enlisting more people, while the defense minister believes it's more helpful to modernize the army by developing and buying new state-of-art weapons and other equipment. I was favoring the idea of the defense minister, but I didn't make a clear stance in front of them, because I want to minimize the conflict at this stage as much as possible. The third meeting is about the internal security, attended by the Minister of Justice and Minister of Interior. The domestic situation is not good at all. Even though all police have been sent out to maintain the order, there are still a lot of crimes all over the country, likely due to the awful economy. Moreover, there are more and more political organizations with different ideologies clashing with one another, which would only escalate over time. At the border region, there is a problem of minority protest and illegal immigration, but the argument is more about the incoming budget allocation. The Justice Minister wanted more funds for fighting for the rampant corruption and solving the shortage of judges, while the Interior Minister insisted the importance of more funding for them to ramp up law enforcement and suppress all unrest. During the election campaign, I promised to focus on law and enforcement, and I am going to keep my word. But I'm still undecided on whether to allocate more budget to either one of those departments or all of them, and most importantly, which one is more trustable. The last meeting is about welfare, attended by Minister of Health and Minister of Education. Decades of political upheaval make no room for increasing social welfare for our people. The Health Minister asked for more funds to increase our healthcare capacity and the accessibility to healthcare service in the countryside. The Education Minister also stressed on the necessity of investing more in rural education, while also requested more funding for the modernizing of current curriculum. I agreed with them in principle and at heart, but I don't plan to increase funding for them at all in the national stringency. In other words, I will provide every support to them, but short of help. It's not I don't want to do, but just because there will be no money left after increasing funds for law enforcement and national defense, which are more urgent. And another point I only kept to myself is that the change in education and healthcare system will only take effect in decades if not longer, but there is no way I will still be there by then. For a politician, it's better deal to invest in those tangible projects, such as law enforcement and national defense, which could bring votes immediately. I feel guilty, but then I try to convince myself that I will do everything to help improve the healthcare and education system, but whenever I can. After about 1 month's further study of discussion, I finally announced my decision. There are about $200 million surplus, and $1 million will go to Ministry of Defense and $1 million will go to Ministry of Interior and Justice. The budget for education and health will be maintained at the previous level. It's a tough decision for me, but I don't want to run the government into budget deficit at this critical juncture. Some are rather pleased with my decision, while some are disappointed. I accept all the compliments and criticisms calmly as I gradually caught on how to run the nation.